Hi, for my video project I chose to do bighorn sheep or Ovis canadensis. Bighorn sheep belong to the family Bovidae and are in the genus Ovis. Bighorn sheep are named after, their big horns, and both sexes have a pair despite them being sexually dimorphic. They range in color from light to dark brown to light to dark gray with white on their rump and on the backs of their legs. Males, or rams, sport large, backward curving horns that can weigh up to 30 pounds and weigh about the same as all the other bones in their body combined, which is pretty cool. Males also have evolved internal bony septa and enlarged corneal and frontal sinuses, which basically just help them to absorb impact during clashes when they're competing for mates. Females, or ewes, have much shorter horns with less curvature and are considerably smaller in size and weight than males. Bighorn sheep are native to North America and originally came to North America over the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia to Alaska about 750,000 years ago during the Pleistocene period, and can now be found as far south as northern Mexico. Snow sheep are bighorn sheep's closest Asian ancestor, and bighorn sheep diverged from them about 600,000 years ago. Ovis canadensis are one of three different species of mountain sheep found in both North America and Siberia, with the other two being Dall sheep, or Ovis dalli, and Siberian snow sheep, or Ovis nivicola. There has been some hybridization between Dall sheep and bighorn sheep in areas where the two species share a home range, such as northwestern Canada and Alaska, which has caused some problems with the taxonomy, but not too much. In 1940, bighorn sheep were originally split into 7 separate subspecies, with the main classification being desert bighorns and mountain bighorns. But this all changed in 1993 with microsatellite and mitochondrial DNA testing, and it's now widely accepted that there are basically 3 genetically different subspecies of bighorn sheep. These 3 subspecies include Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep, Ovis canadensis, desert bighorn sheep, Ovis canadensis nelson, and Sierra Nevada bighorn sheep, Ovis canadensis sierra, which are currently endangered. Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep are considerably larger than the other subspecies, with males weighing all the way up to about 500 pounds in some cases, and females going up to 200 pounds. The much smaller Sierra Nevada bighorn subspecies males weigh up to about 200 pounds and females weigh up to about 140, so they can range pretty greatly in size just based off the subspecies alone. In terms of habitat, bighorn sheep occupy varying habitats, with the Sierra Nevada and Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep living in the cooler mountain ecosystems of the United States and Canada, while the desert bighorns reside in hot desert environments of southwestern U.S. and Mexico. Preferred habitat for bighorns usually includes grassy mountain slopes, alpine meadows, and foothill country near rocky faces and cliffs or bluffs. They're extremely well adapted to climbing steep terrain, and they usually utilize this skill to evade predators. They can't move very well through deep snow, so they prefer dry regions with little snowfall. Another determinant of habitat selection is food availability. Bighorn sheep graze on grasses and shrubs and get minerals from natural salt licks also. Feeding behavior is also a little different between males and females. Females tend to forage and walk. They think that this might just be kind of an invasive strategy for predators or for calves, while males usually rest after they feed, and this kind of contributes to a larger body size in general. Socially, bighorns are very social animals. They reside in large herds. Rams try to form a dominance hierarchy and compete for mating rights for ewes prior to mating season. Mating season is called the rut, so during this pre-rut period is when a lot of characteristic horn clashing can be seen. This involves males walking a short distance from one another, turning to face, and repeatedly jumping and lunging into a headbutt until a winner is established, which can often cause damage to the ram's horns also. Females, on the other hand, have a stable social status that typically correlates with age, but sometimes younger females will try and start a fight for higher status when they're first integrated into the hierarchy at about 1 or 2 years of age. Once a dominance hierarchy is established in males, they usually employ a tending strategy for courtship, which basically entails the ram following and defending an estrus ewe until he can mate with her. Bighorns then have about a 6-month gestation period, and pregnant ewes in the Rocky Mountains will actually migrate to alpine areas to give birth, presumably because it's safer for competitors. The only downside of this is that there's less foraging. But the peak of the rut occurs in November, is when most of the mating occurs, and usually one, but sometimes two lambs are born, and this usually happens in May. But most births occur within the first 2 weeks of the lambing period, but lambs born earlier in the season have a greater chance of survival, since lambs born later may not have access to sufficient milk, since ewes will be lactating when food quality is lower. Newborns typically weigh about 8 to 10 pounds and can walk within a few hours of birth. They are then weaned at about 4 to 6 months of age. The lifespan of rams typically ranges from 9 to 12 years, and ewes live a little bit longer at about 10 to 14 years. The North America wild used to sustain a huge population of bighorn sheep all the way up in the millions, but with the combination of disease introduced from European livestock and overharvest from humans, numbers diminished down to a few thousand by 1900. So I had a really big decline there. Bighorns are extremely susceptible to diseases from domestic sheep such as pneumonia and scabies, and tend to suffer greatly as a result. U.S. populations in particular experience regular outbreaks of infectious pneumonia from bacterial pathogens carried in domestic sheep. These pathogens travel extremely fast through the population, since bighorns live in these large social herds, and they affect all ages, but lambs are hit particularly hard. And since it can kind of take out generations, sometimes it can kill off as much as 90% of a population. All right, thank you. That's all I've got today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.